I'll come over.
I find that every time I log in the phone, here it's harder to get back.
We're starting to take first.
Thank you.
Did it get fixed? Yeah, and you know what? You didn't need a password. He already set it for you. He just clicked on it. I could have done that. It just asked you which one she wanted. I did not know that. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll call the meeting to order and declare we have a quorum. Moving on to 1.03, the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to move that we take number, sorry,
4.04.
could be, can't get down there. Yeah, 4.04 out of consent agenda and move it up to open.
Okay, so we have a request to amend the agenda 4.04 and move it into the business items.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I call the vote? Mr. Garden? Yes. Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes,
And I'll vote yes. Thank you. Now I'll look for the motion to adopt the agenda.
so moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes,
And I'll vote yes. Moving on to 1.04, we are going to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask Kate to lead us.
We're going to also have some of our students from the IWC join us as well.
Oh, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and start with the School of the Month with Ms. Hay. I try to do it quicker so that I can catch you guys before you go back.
I know. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight for a School of the Month. When I was thinking about trying to come up with a presentation for the School of the Month, I thought about trying to kill two birds with one stone. And I wanted to really highlight how our teachers and our students have been kind of thriving in a virtual environment and some of the things that they're doing with the tech competencies. And also highlight our arts program and our music program. So Mrs. Carson, our choir teacher, has done a project that is very impressive. And I will let her speak a little bit and introduce the students who will be talking to you about our presentation tonight.
Good evening. As many of you probably anticipate, what I'm about to say is that the pandemic has been really hard for arts programs. It's been really hard to be separated when what we do is meant to be done together. And technology isn't always our friend when it comes to trying to do music and things in long distance manners. So one of my goals as we've traveled through this virtual setting has been to try and create learning opportunities and opportunities for connection with my students. And part of that was geared towards being able to give them opportunities to feel like they were performing as a group instead of these individuals isolated in their homes. So one of the things that we did, let's see, use this, okay. Always the first rule of technology, turn it on. And so the part of the equity statement that when Dr. Peterson asked us to share tonight, I looked at and was investing in engaging students in their learning by supporting student and teacher efficacy. So making sure that we have the tools necessary to reach the goal that we're trying to reach and that that's possible for every student. And thanks to some of the technology that the district has been able to provide our students, that is part of what we were able to do here. So one of the things that we did in the course of first semester was we did a virtual choir project. Some of you are probably familiar with this idea and have maybe seen it on social media from different arts organizations. But it's basically a video that takes recordings of individuals in their own homes and in their own places and edits it together to give that impression of being together in a community performance event. We did this over the course of first semester with the end product being produced in November. So with me today, I have two of my students. So we have Katrina, who's a 6th grader, who I actually met for the very first time tonight in person. She's one of our RVA students, and I've never actually gotten to see her in person until tonight. And then James, who's one of our 8th graders. So they come with differing levels of experience within our program, and I'm gonna let them tell you a little bit about what this process was like. Okay. All right, we had somebody drop out at the last minute, so we're trying to cover some things here. So part of the process was that we practiced 2 to 3 times a week, so that's how often at the middle school level the students had their encore classes during first semester. And this included warm-ups and opportunities for them to work on their skills and their singing techniques as it related to the music that we were working on.
We started learning this song at the beginning of September, which in elementary choir, we wait a few months and then we start learning the song, which is really different to start learning the song on the very first day.
So when we were creating our virtual choir, we all had to use Zoom to get to class and to practice. And so when we sing on Zoom, everyone must stay muted because of internet lag and like the delay. So if we all sing together at once, it would be very bad. And so we never really heard each other sing until like the final product was finished. And so, yeah. We also, for our final product, we went to this website called Flipgrid, and from there, Miss Carson saved our videos. So from the, let me start over. So from there, Miss Carson saved our videos and put it all together and then edited it from there, and then voila, virtual choir.
Okay, so what were some of the challenges that we faced in doing this?
Some challenges that students had to face when making this virtual choir was finding a quiet space to actually record themselves. So since we had to do it from home, there was parents and siblings and other family members at home. So we can't really control them to stay quiet. And so we had to find the perfect time when they were asleep or before they wake up. And so some of us also have to babysit our little sisters and little brothers. For example, I had to do that. And so I never really found a perfect time to record. So I had to wait till everyone was asleep. And thankfully, Ms. Carson was super understanding about that. And so she let me do it sometime a little late. And so that was some challenges that we had to face.
What else, Katrina?
We have never been able to hear this whole choir sing together. And once Miss Carson finished editing everything together, we got to hear everyone sing. And it was actually very interesting and a lot different from elementary choir, because we had 3 different grades singing together. And in elementary school, you only had 2. And there was maybe 13 people total in elementary school choir.
Sometimes we also had to work through technology issues such as, so our goal was to make sure that our playback track that we listened to wasn't heard in our final product. And so Ms. Carson's way of dealing with that was wearing headphones, because normally if you wear headphones, you wouldn't be able to hear the playback track, but that wasn't the case for me. And so I had to work around that problem and get a second device. So I had to download Google Classroom. So I had to use my second device, which is my phone. And from there, I had to use 2 devices, 2 headphones, one from the computer and one from my phone. And yeah, at the end, she wasn't able to hear the playback track.
So not just teaching music here, but teaching problem solving and all sorts of tech skills that they have needed to develop. All right, so what was the experience like overall for you guys, and what did we learn from this?
Recording this required us to all know our parts, because when we were singing, when the flip grid was playing, we had to know our part, because if we were too quiet or too loud, then Miss Carson wouldn't be able to make all the voices blend together. And once she edited everything together, we heard the whole choir sing.
So besides progress report cards and report cards, our concerts was the only way for our parents and family members to actually know what we've been doing all year. And so virtual choir to me was really important, because my parents like to see the things that I've been doing in school. And so if it wasn't for virtual choir, they think that I'll just be skipping classes. But so virtual choir really gave them how do you say, it's you weren't skipping class. And so yeah, the virtual choir just allowed us to actually show our parents what we've been doing through the months here.
And although we can't show it to you in real time this evening, here's a small glimpse into the end product. We had 43 of our choir students across 6th, 7th, and 8th grade be able to participate. And we will make sure that you all have access to that link so that you can go check it out for yourself. I believe this presentation is in your board docs, so you might be able to access it that way. But I hope you'll take a few minutes to check out some of the work that our students did. They worked really hard to make it happen. And the reality of not being able to hear each other sing until this moment was powerful for them and powerful for me as their teacher, because I also had not been able to hear them sing until we did this. And so thank you again to the district for providing the technology this year that has made this kind of connection possible. Even with the separation, we know the arts are valuable for our students, and I have always valued that Ritenour values the arts here. So I hope this showcases one of the ways that your technology and your amazing students are continuing to do amazing things right now.
Ms. Carson, I have a question. So we're always looking to identify those next practices that we're doing now during the pandemic, that even when we're on the other side of the pandemic, it makes sense to keep those practices up. Can you talk a little bit about some of the practices you've identified that even when we're on the other side of this, you hope to keep implementing?
Sure. So I had actually, for the last 2 years prior to this year, been using Chromebooks almost exclusively in my classroom for instructional and work purposes. And my students had already kind of become accustomed to using Flipgrid to record themselves for assessments and things like that. I would not want to necessarily keep doing virtual choirs. I'm dying to get back to in-person live performance. There's nothing like it. However, I do value the ability to differentiate what my students are doing by being able to provide different tasks through the use of technology and give them flexibility and some more choice in their learning as a result of being able to use some of those tools. I've also learned a lot about how to best communicate to my students what they need to be doing when I can't be right there to do it. And so that has required creativity in terms of how we run a rehearsal and what that looks like on their end and my end, and how we interact with each other is different. And so incorporating opportunities for them to move at home. I mean, we've always done a lot of that in choir, but getting them up from behind their computers to stand up and sing and things like that has been something that's really valuable and just reinforces that practice that, again, comes as a part of being in music ensembles and things like that. I've also had the opportunity to check into different ways of doing assessment and checking for understanding, because again, it's not as easy as walking past them and looking over their shoulder and going, oh, hey, you got that, that's great. So being able to access different websites and resources that help us to gain that insight into what they are and aren't understanding, to be able to be more responsive and provide that differentiated kind of instruction that I mentioned earlier. Those are definitely things that I would carry with me forward from here.
Any other questions? Thank you guys for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us tonight.
And I can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the families of our HAPE students, if you could please stand so that we could appreciate you for what you do for your students in our district. All right, IWC.
Hi, my name is Mike Mayberry, and I'm here with Mr. Ben Norell, and we're teachers at the IWC, which is the International Welcome Center. And real briefly, if you're not familiar with what we do at the International Welcome Center, we're a school that accepts students that have just arrived to the United States that need to develop their English skills to the extent that they'll reasonably be expected to succeed in one of their neighborhood schools. And we send the schools to Ritenour High School, Hake Middle, and Ritenour Middle School once they've completed the program. When we were asked to be a featured school, we were given the template with the vision and the mission statement, and we were asked to pick a portion of the equity statement that resonated with us. And I really think that the existence of the IWC in and of itself exemplifies this portion of the equity statement. It's the commitment to building a positive, purposeful relationship with every student and every family so that barriers to learning at high levels are removed. And that goes on to say a little bit more, but the students that I'm going to introduce to you, I think further exemplify that when we take away certain barriers, that learning at high levels is entirely possible and is expected as they move through our program. So thank you again for allowing us to show off some of our students and being a featured school this month. So what my students are going to do is, well, they were first given and kind of an open-ended prompt to write about their experience coming to the IWC. And we have one student that's actually transitioned from the IWC to Ritenour High School. And I don't want to put her business out there, but she's doing really well. So we just thought this would be a really good opportunity for for you to see a family. One of the family members, Sophia, is in 6th grade, and she did join my class. Her brother, Alessandro, is in 9th grade, and he just joined my class, and I worked with Scarlett last year. And this is the beginning of their 3rd semester with the IWC, and now Scarlett just finished her 1st semester at Ritter High School. So I'll let them speak, and they've been told to expect some questions from you, so if you have any, don't hold back. Mr. Norell will speak briefly, but they've been told that if they get nervous, that they can speak Spanish as well, and Mr. Norell will translate. So I'll let Scarlett take it from here.
So, hi everyone, my name is Scarlett. I'm really happy to be here today sharing my experience at IWC. To begin with, I would like to say that I was really worried even before arriving to the United States. Not just about learning English, I was worried about the cultural impact that it would have. When I got here, I thought that I was not ready to go to the school and take classes in English, but the school district gave me the opportunity to attend to the introductory center, and I think that it was the best start for my education abroad. I was training not just in English. I mentally prepared myself to how the USA educational system works. I'm really happy to be here today because I want to tell you that the IWC provides 100% to help to the people who are learning English, and I really appreciate every commandment with a. I'm sorry, I'm just a little nervous. The dedication and commitment of my teachers. Now I want to say that the USA schools provide us, offer the best opportunities. The rest we have to do it ourselves. They are our guides, but the willpower is ours. And I just want to say thank you for everything. I will be grateful for this great opportunity that you are giving us. Thank you.
Hi, I speak from my experience in IWC. The IWC is important for everyone with low level of English, or for people coming to the United States. It's also good for people who have a low budget for study, because in IWC, it does not take much to learn. I think what we are learning is important for everyone, not just for me, but for everyone in IWC, because it's helped them a lot. At IWC, we study writing, reading, speaking, and listening. We study and practice every day. We have a lot of reading, speaking, listening, and vocabulary work. I think I have had a big chance in learning English. It is good to go to the IWC before going to the high school, because you will be able to better understand the jobs that are being put into practice. But with the IWC, you will be able to understand it better, because they are giving you a foundation to go Ritenour High School. I want to progress in understanding this new language for me. Since I was little, I had like one thing. This thing is veterinary medicine, because they protect the fullness, animals, and save life. And that is why I like this career. Thank you.
Hi. At the IWC, you learn to read, write, and speak about new things in the English. Our teacher teaches new things about English. We study English, math, reading, listening, vocabulary, and understand English. I feel like I am learning more English every day. It's more important to learn more English before you go to the Ritenour High School to be able to speak English and in order to understand people. I want to learn more about English because I want to learn more listening, reading, and writing. I would like to be a doctor because I have always liked to learn science and yoga. I will see I like how teachers and the students teach and learn.
So anyways, these are our students and they're just so resilient and we're just so proud of them for all the work they put in. And it's just been such a privilege to be able to serve our students that, I mean, getting to a new country, learning a new language, a new education system, a new way of doing paperwork, of paying, like everything is brand new. And so it's just so cool to be able to just serve in that way. And it's really, we don't just help them academically, but we just help them culturally, emotionally. There's a big adjustment when you're transitioning to a whole nother country. So we're just so privileged to be able to work here, and we appreciate all the support that you all have given us for that IWC to be possible. So, yeah.
So I reminded them that there might be some questions. So I would like to encourage them and ourselves to step forward. And I know that we are going to allow our students' parents to stand, but I formally want to recognize you and thank you as well. Well, I'll give this back over to Mr. Norell if there are any questions because of his excellent translating.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did they know any English before they came here?
Did you know any English before?
No, I studied for English just 5 months. Wow.
Yeah.
So I think can Scarlett speak a little bit on that? Obviously, you've been in school for 3 semesters.
How long have you been in school?
At Ritenour High School?
Yes, at the IWC.
I think just 3 or 2 semesters.
Yeah, they registered last year.
Yeah, I started February on IWC, and actually I'm at Ritenour High School. I just have been since August, I think so.
So when you came into the IWC, Scarlett, you had no English before you came
No, never.
And so the same with Alessandro.
Yeah.
Do your parents speak English?
No, I'm the only one in the house that speaks English. But I want to learn.
Yeah.
Scarlett, how do you like, are you coming into the school now, or are you?
I'm in virtual right now, but I'm waiting for to come back to the school.
She's been in the high school for 1 semester now.
Okay.
But she physically comes in here. She's hybrid.
Yeah.
Virtual.
Virtual.
Yeah.
How many students do we have that are?
What are they still record now? Right around 48.
And we just we're counting the 2 new students who just showed up.
Yeah, we got 2 students this week. I can tell you how many are in my class. I've got 23 students.
Yeah, we're around 50 students total at the IWC. Yeah. And so as you can see, like not only for themselves, but also sometimes they're the only representatives of their family that speak English. There's a lot of weight and responsibility on these students, not to just learn the language for school, but also just in family life and helping out at home. So it's a really awesome service that we're able to provide for our school district to give that launch pad, that landing pad, and then a launch pad for students to be successful academically and culturally when they transition into the middle school or the high school. Are there any other questions?
So when they come, and obviously they're doing very, very well. I'm so impressed. I don't think I could do as well if I went to another country that didn't speak English. But is there anything that they could feedback give us that would improve their experience?
So is there something that would make the IWC or Ritenour piece better for someone that is? No, if there's something that we could do even better. That's my whole, like,
I don't think so that they can do something better. That they are the best school ever. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think that
no, your answer.
I'm good.
I mean, I don't mind that answer.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. But I'm really happy. I just think, I'm not saying just for me, because I think that I know that many people don't have this opportunity, like IWC in another city, like Chicago, in another city. So when they came home, they come here, they say, why you speak English really good? They say, because I went to the IWC. I think that everybody have to go there if they come to another country. I think that is the best.
What country are they from? Are they all
Honduras.
Honduras, all three?
Yeah.
All three from Honduras?
They're all siblings, so they're able to come. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah. So Michael Mayberry introduced at the beginning. This is one family. So for COVID reasons, but also to show kind of the spectrum of it's just really cool to have one family. We're able to see one that's already in the high school, one that has been in the highest level in the IWC for a semester now, and then his younger sister, Sophia, just last week was bumped up to the higher level, which is the preparatory group for transitioning into the middle school or the high school. So we just wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what it would look like. Someone that has already transitioned, someone that's about to transition, and a student that's moving up in the IWC.
Let's put the teachers on the spot since we did the students. What can we do better from where you guys sit to make this more improved program?
I think we're pretty well equipped. You know, we're down a teacher, and we've actually kind of lucked out in that sense that we have so many online tools, and virtual learning helped us actually absorb that a little bit better than we could have otherwise. But I think going back to kids coming every day, me having 23 students will be rough. I don't think that's optimal. And like I say, we've found ways to keep up the rigor. And I think it's hard to say that we were fortunate with the circumstances being what they are, but it did help us maintain, like I say, the rigor. I don't think it would be quite as possible for the entire school year being a teacher down.
And I also think something that has been growing at the IWC that I just want to encourage is that we've had social workers and counselors that work directly with us. And we're acknowledging that it's not just an academic transition, but the students are shifting culturally, like emotionally, like there's so many changes that happen, and having social workers that help us specifically and know our students and know that there's a couple extra things to expect, like simply getting a translator, but also, you know, just it's the first time they're figuring out how to sign a lease and what, like, do you pay for water? Or does your landlord pay for water? And how do you get a bank account? Like, there's so many things that are added on that you wouldn't normally think about. And so having social workers and counselors that know the IWC and what the extra hurdles might be for our families, that has been a really great help, and just like encourage us to keep that perspective and that going forward, which we've been doing, which is awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our families here. We appreciate you. Great story. Okay, moving on to 1.06. I'd like to report that the Board of Education met in closed session on January 14th, 2021 for the purpose of a discussion of real estate and personnel agenda items. Moving on to 1.07. Okay, so we did have a letter come in to Dr. Alvin, and so I'll let you go ahead and read it. You want me to pass this over to you?
Dear Dr. Ellen Wilson, I just wanted to reach out to you and thank you for all the safety measures that the school has put in place to keep my son and my family safe. Unfortunately, I ended up getting COVID and was in critical condition for 9 days. I was not sure if I would make it home to my family. While I was in the hospital, my son's teachers brought him care packages, Dr. Brown, SSD math, and made sure he had everything he needed. Going back into the classroom, I knew my son, teachers, and other students were protected with the measures that had been put into place. These are difficult times, but I am proud to be a part of a community that watches out for each other and knows that we all need to keep each other safe to make it on the other side of this unusual time together. Proud parents and alumni, Tamara D. Fain. Fain. F-A-I-N.
Fain.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, so moving on from public comments, we will go into our reports. The president's report. I would like to tell you about one of our amazing first grade students from Kratz Elementary. 6-year-old Noah has been making a splash in local and national media this year. I actually watched Noah on Kelly Clarkson on your time that you had with Kelly Clarkson. It was the coolest thing. Every morning you'll find Noah cheerfully and adorably reporting on the weather forecast on his Facebook and Instagram social media pages called Good Morning STL. In January, he was featured in the St. Louis American newspaper, on local television stations, and on the national Kelly Clarkson show. Noah is the son of Kratz office professional, Shanika, thank you. I'm sorry for that. We are so proud of you, Noah. Noah, do you want to come forward? Do I have Noah?
Yeah. Hi, Noah. How are you? It's good to meet you. I'm Dr. Kilbride. Do you want to come right around here and do you want to? So board members, this is Noah, and Noah is here with mom, Ms. Jelinovic. Ms. Jelinovic is an office professional at Kratz Elementary School, where Noah goes. So if you haven't seen Noah give one of his reports, Noah, there's been a lot happening in the weather. Take it away.
No shower this evening. This morning. Low 10 degrees. And it's Thursday, so there will be snow shower. Low 10 degrees.
So Noah, how do you start off your reports every morning? Can you show the board?
You wear a mask when you do it?
Go ahead, say.
Take it off. You're safe. There you go. Do it again.
And what do you say?
Good morning, St. Louis.
Okay, go ahead and do it.
Good morning, St. Louis.
So board members, Noah has received a whole lot of nationwide attention. Shanika, do you care to talk a little bit about some of the attention that Noah has received?
And this to happen, it's just something that he wanted to do. He started playing a lot of games during the pandemic, and I was just like, okay, we have to do something educational. So he started looking at the weather app and decided that he wanted a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, YouTube is a lot. So let's just start off with Facebook and Instagram. And he has been doing videos since May 15th of 2020. So he's really taken off. I'm really proud of him. And he has a giveaway coming up next week. So make sure you are following his page.
Thank you. Great job, Noah. Thank you for being here with us.
Noah, do you want to be a weatherman when you get older?
I haven't decided.
You haven't decided? Well, I think you could be anything you wanted to be because you are so exciting and you're so invigorating. Like you just bring so much joy and happiness to people. And I thank you for that.
You are so cool, dude. I like your shoes. I wish
Great job, Noah.
Yeah,
Thank you for being
Noah,
here.
thanks for coming. That's a pretty special little guy there.
So what's his Instagram page? Oh, it's Facebook and Instagram at Good Morning SPO. Thank you. Every morning at 9 o'clock.
Joy, I look forward to the day where you say it's gonna be sunny and 50 degrees. I'll be patient, but don't wait too long, okay?
Thank you again for being here with us. And that concludes my report. Dr. Kilbride, I turn it over to you for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Ms. Lonis. So board members, I'd like to start off by recognizing the business department under the leadership of Mr. Dwight Lindhorst. For the 19th consecutive year, proud to report that Ritenour has earned the Meritorious Budget Award for excellence in the preparation of this year's school budget. Earning this award for 19 consecutive years shows that Ritenour is using best practice when putting together a budget that ties finances, statistical data, student performance, and overall operations into the document. I'd like to say congratulations to Mr. Lindhorst and his entire team in the business office for again earning this honor. Congratulations. So board members, I'd like to recognize you as well. So at your places, another change with the pandemic, this is something I'd normally hand out to you and shake your hand, but your MSBA certificate in recognition of your service and in recognition of School Board Recognition Week is at your place. School Board Recognition Week begins on February 14th and it continues through the 20th of February. It's my honor to personally thank you for your service, to thank you for your service to students and to this community. The Ritenour community benefits every day from your dedication, from your countless hours devoted to this position, a position for which you receive no pay. So while it's not pay in monetary compensation, board members, I know that you're compensated in the events and the things that you saw tonight with our amazing students from Hake, our amazing students from the IWC, and from our amazing student, Noah. During School Board Recognition Week, communities across the state of Missouri will honor the dedicated service of their local boards of education. The goal is to build awareness and understanding of the important function that you play in providing leadership for this community and for Ritenour schools. We can't thank all of you enough for your important contributions and the vital role that you play. I'd like to say personally, thank you for your support. Thank you for your advocacy for students, your advocacy for staff. It's an absolute joy to learn with every one of you. So everybody who is not a board member or a student representative to the board, I'd ask that we give the Ritenour board a standing ovation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I will say that our pay comes in hugs and high fives, and that has been lacking. So a shot so we can all start getting back to hugs and high fives. Okay, moving on to our 2.03, we have our LAC report.
So board members, the LAC meeting is next Friday. It's on the 19th of February. And we'll be talking about some recent legislation. One of the bills that I think you're very aware of at this point is Senate Bill 55. So there's been information put out in memos, information where if you would choose to contact either Senator Brian Williams or Senator Jill Shoup, there's some talking points around how Senate Bill 55 could be damaging to public education, but more specific than that, damaging to the Ritenour School District. Senate Bill 55 includes provisions around vouchers, the expansion of charter schools. There's a provision for board member recall, and there's also a provision that would strip away local district decision-making power as it relates to MOCAP. That's the virtual charter network that's been established here in the state of Missouri. Now, there's been an interesting development in Senate Bill 55. The sponsor, Cindy O'Loughlin, is very ill right now. And so when Senator O'Loughlin is ill, this bill was expected to make it to the floor of the Senate, and it hasn't yet because its sponsor is very ill and I believe has been hospitalized. So there's still a lot of time for advocacy. We do expect this bill to be hitting the floor very, very quickly as soon as Senator O'Loughlin is able to advocate for the bill. So if you have any questions about Senate Bill 55, I'll continue to put more updates out there with information that I have about Senate Bill 55. There's a couple of other bills that have really burst on the scene, and they're on the House side. House Bill 543 is sponsored by Representative Pollitt. Representative Pollitt is from Sedalia, Missouri, and he's a former school superintendent. This is an open enrollment bill, which essentially would allow students in the state of Missouri open enrollment to any of the 520 public school districts across the state. There's a $60 million fund that is created that would cover the cost of the difference in tuition between various districts. So the cost to educate a child in the Ritenour School District is about $11,000. The cost to educate a child in the University City School District is about $16,000. So this fund with $60 million would cover the difference in cost if there were a student that wished to attend a school district where there's a higher tuition cost. The question is, where would that money come from? You know, the answer is it would have to come from the foundation formula that would impact all the districts across the state of Missouri. So House Bill 543 gaining some significant interest. There's House Bill 349 that was sponsored by Representative Krista Finelli. It's a school voucher bill that would start off and has an escalation clause that would increase the amount of money that would be flowing into the voucher funding mechanism. So a bill to keep our eyes on. And the final, bill that is really bursting on the scene as well is House Bill 942, sponsored by Representative Hafner, who's from the Kansas City side of the state. So this bill is focused on accreditation of schools and districts in the state of Missouri. And it establishes a threshold for 10% of the schools and school districts in the state of Missouri must be unaccredited. They must fall in that range. 25% of the schools and school districts in Missouri must fall in the provisionally accredited range. So regardless of the scores, there are thresholds that are being set that districts and schools would have to fall into. So it's kind of like a calibration system that regardless of how well the school or district is performing, if they are in the lowest 10% or if they're in the next 25%, they would fall into those categories around accreditation. So another bill that potentially could be very concerning and something we really need to keep an eye on. These bills, especially Senate Bill 55, House Bill 543, and House Bill 942, those will be the basis for that LAC meeting on the 19th of February. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to 2.04, we have our MSBA report from Dr. Thomas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Are we ready, Fred? We'll run our MSBA film clip.
It's not showing on the screen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association.
while they're doing that, a few things of note. NSBA, even though we would be traveling there come April, they're still going to have a virtual conference. A lot of things, good speakers. Consider board members signing up for that. It's April 8th, 9, and 10. Some good topics. You can do it all from your comfy couch at home and attend the conference, learn on some new topics, virtually join thousands of other school board members from around the country, learning about the new things coming out, cutting edge things that school districts are doing. I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. Let Michelle know, which I have to. So yes, please. And even though we won't be able to go out and be together as a group, it's good for us all to learn the latest and greatest that's going on the federal level. Same thing with, I mentioned Missouri School Boards Association a lot, but if you look as you get your emails, NSBA is now putting out a lot of webinars, and one thing that they've been talking a lot about is equity. They put out some very good webinars and classes about that. So that might be something that you're of interest in. So please, as you, and as Dr. Kilbride just mentioned, all the different things going on in Jeff City, you can see their weekly bulletin that they put out about happenings in the legislature. So keep yourself up to date with everything. I encourage everyone to spend a few minutes weekly looking at those topics and those emails. And are we ready, Doug? All right, let's roll that meeting footage.
Association's board report for the month of February. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the environment for public education at the national level. The new executive director of the National School Boards Association, Ana Maria Chavez, says that within the first 100 days, the Biden administration must hit the ground running to protect public schools from the damaging effects of chronic underfunding at the federal level. She says public schools have an immediate need for emergency relief funding to deal with the impact of the pandemic. Chavez recently spoke to the MSBA Board of Directors via Zoom during its meeting last month. She says the pandemic has highlighted the important role the public schools play in our communities.
This pandemic has made every household almost part of our public education system. Everybody's a teacher now. If you talk to most parents across the country, most grandparents raising grandkids, they've now realized how difficult it is to be a teacher, to be a superintendent, to be a principal, and to be a school board member. So where these issues were kind of ethereal or theoretical, there are now millions of people who've realized that one, we've underfunded public education for decades. Two, we continue to erode the authority, right? Because state by state, and as you know, some public philanthropists have made it their mission to dismantle local school boards. There are individuals who realize how, again, at the federal level, there's a need to fully fund the mandate of public education.
Chavez is calling on the federal government to provide resources to help local school districts with continuing challenges, including improving student access to the internet, alleviating teacher shortages, promoting racial equity, and responding to the needs of special education students. Governor Mike Parson spent considerable time talking about education during his State of the State address on January 27th. The speech was moved from its traditional location in the House chamber at the Capitol to the Senate chamber due to COVID-19 concerns. During the speech, Parson announced the consolidation of early childhood education programs from several state agencies into the new Office of Childhood in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
This new office will not only help streamline the operation of several state programs, but also allow us to place a bigger focus on early childhood development, a critical component to the future success of Missourians for the generations to come. In addition to early childhood, we will also continue to invest in K through 12 education. It goes without saying that this past year has been especially hard on students, parents, teachers, and administrators. These challenges were not just social and emotional, but also financial, which is why we are once again proposing to fully funding the foundation formula.
Governor Parson also urged lawmakers to pass legislation allowing for the collection of online sales tax, the so-called Wayfair fix.
I hope the House and the Senate will consider legislation to address the unfair advantage online retailers have over small businesses in Missouri. I'm a strong supporter of lower taxes. In fact, I have signed several tax cuts into law. However, our small businesses, especially in smaller communities, are getting crushed right now because they cannot compete with huge online retailers. We must level the playing field and consider ways to responsibly invest those revenues and provide new opportunities for our state.
MSBA strongly supports the collection of sales tax on internet sales to increase the funding available to school districts and other local entities that provide necessary services to communities and the families school districts serve. There are several issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that are of great concern to MSBA and school board members throughout the state, including the expansion of charter schools, as well as tax credit voucher programs that would funnel public dollars to private schools that are not accountable to taxpayers. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. Due to the continuing pandemic, the MSBA Legislative Forum, originally scheduled for this month in Jefferson City, has been rescheduled for April 12th. Check the MSBA website for registration information. MSBA Center for Education Safety will offer Missouri's first School Safety Academy in early August. The Academy will provide a variety of courses at no cost for certification of participants as school safety specialists. The School Safety Academy is open to all school safety coordinators, school resource officers, school protection officers, and other key school safety personnel. Space is limited. Check the Center for Education Safety section of the MSBA website for information on the application process to attend the Academy. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to 2.05, which is our special school district report. And I think Dr. Alvin.
I'm going to turn it over to Rob Eaton, our PAC leader.
So when Stacy and I talked about this and I agreed to do it, that was when we were going to have a PAC meeting last night. And then because SSD was closed yesterday, that canceled the PAC meeting. So I went, now I've got to figure this out. So I went back to kind of a couple months ago, you guys asked for Ritenour to kind of get involved in that. And so looked at me, I kind of stepped up. And what is the PAC? What does it do? Well, one of the first things they told us when I went in was that Ritenour, which I did not realize,
Ritenour has 1,293 students that receive services from SSD. 1,169 of those attend a Ritenour school, and 109 of those attend whether it be Litzinger or one of the other SSD schools. That is 20.7% of Ritenour's population. And I went, wow. Because to be honest with you, when it comes to special school district, you know who I care about? I cared about Noah. And that's what, and I think there's a lot of SSD families that's what their concern is their child. And we didn't realize there was I mean, I knew SSD had kids in classes with Noah, and I knew all of that, but didn't really realize what exactly was involved there. So I have submitted my application for the SSD path that was supposed to be voted on last night. That got moved to March, but unless Dr. Kilbride sends him a message and says, pull him out of there, I've been told I would be, I don't have a problem. So what are the roles and responsibilities of myself is I have to attend all PAC meetings. I share the concerns of the district and with the parents. So if the district has concerns that they want passed along, I kind of am one of those people that takes that back to the other parents. So if parents have concerns, I can take it back. If SSD wants to get information out to the parents, there's that. It is to encourage, one of their goals and objectives is to encourage families to meet with each other for support and realize that they're not in this alone. To hear some of the parents talking that their kid isn't getting progress reports, so they're not getting it. It's like, wait a second, they should be sending out progress reports on these dates. And so parents just don't know where to turn to. They don't know the information. They don't know all the resources that are out there to them. We share ideas back and forth, things that another school might have seen works great for them, that then I can come back to you guys and share with you and say, hey, here's an opportunity. One of the goals is to inform parents, to inform them of all the resources that are out there, all the ways that they can keep their child involved. Again, I already mentioned, but communicate between Ritenour School District and SSD. Create and promote positive understanding and, wow, I did not spell check, awareness of students with disabilities. And then their other one is for Ritenour, which is not something I'm looking at doing in the next month or two. Let me get my feet wet. But it is to create our own school path that we can meet together as parents and gather together and go over things and share ideas. So I did need they asked me to be sure that I shared out my information with you. So there is my name. If you're watching on YouTube, there is my information, my cell phone number, and my email address. If you've got any questions, concerns, if you guys have any questions or concerns that you want given to SSD, that I'm happy to do that. And then, as I said already, I will be sworn in March.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And through the years, I know a couple of people that have served in your position, and they did really well. So I'm looking forward to, I know you'll do a good job.
Thank you.
And Rob, just let us know what you need from us.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Dr. Alvin? That's it. No. Thank you. Moving on to our business items, we have the very exciting 3.01. I will turn this over to Dr. Kilbride and Ms. Cleaver.
Thank you, Ms. Lona. So board members, we have with us tonight, Janiyah Scott. So Ms. Scott, if you come up to your location, please. So Janiyah is currently an 11th grade student at Ritenour High School. She had applied to serve as the new incoming student representative for the Board of Education. So Kayla Baker is the first student rep in the history of the Ritenour School District. And so Kayla has served well. She's going to be with us for a couple more months. And then Janiyah is going to be sworn in this evening. And she'll start her one-year term as a student advisor to the board. We should get a microphone. microphone. I think.
Hold on, Michelle. Can we move the microphone over?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of student representative in and for Ritenour School District, a student representative in and for Ritenour School District, County of St. Louis, State of Missouri, County of St. Louis, State of Missouri, to the best of my ability, according to law, so help me God. According to law, so help me God. Congratulations.
So board members, as Janaya is signing her oath, I'll be meeting with Janaya next week, and I'm hoping that we can meet with Kayla as well next Wednesday. We'll set a time and see if that works for Kayla as well to talk a bit about board service, and Kayla can share her perspectives, strengths, and opportunities in the role with Janaya as well. Welcome, Janaya.
Kyle.
Janaya, welcome to the team. If you have any questions, all of the board members can be contacted and we're happy to help. Okay? All right. Yeah, Janaya, do you want to introduce who's with you this evening?
Oh, this is my father, Robert Scott.
Welcome.
On FaceTime with my mother, who is disabled and could not be here this season, but she's here to watch this on the phone.
Thank you for being here.
Very proud. She wrote a great speech for or letter for us and everything, so we're very excited to have her with us. Yep. She's gonna be great for us. Thank you. All right. So the next thing that we'll move on to is our 3.02 with our middle school technology purchase. And I will turn this over to Dr. Kilbride and Dr. Harlan.
So board members, I shared information about some additional ESSER funds, which is supporting districts as we navigate the impact of the pandemic. We received some funds from ESSER 1, which we received back in April and May. Most recent volume funds in December, which allowed us to purchase and move very quickly to get an air purifier for every classroom as well as every office in the district. We ended up purchasing 700. So I appreciate the business office and the operations department for moving very quickly. And the last project that was connected to those December expenditures is ionizers were attached to the air handlers in the cafeterias and the gymnasiums to ionize the air, and which charges bacteria, viruses, particles, and makes it more easy to sterilize space. We received last week that there is a new influx of money coming into school districts, and we need to move very, very quickly. So I appreciate the board leadership, Jennifer and Stacy, for their willingness to allow us to put this item on the agenda for you tonight. This involves the purchase of technology to replace some of the aging machines at our middle schools. If you approve this tonight, after Dr. Harlan speaks through the details, this would allow us to get at the, near the front of the line as we try to learn better and be better. From last summer, there were significant disruptions in the supply chain around purchasing of technology, significant delays. That's really where the urgency is coming from tonight, to get this item to you quickly, because we need to get at the very front of the queue, because we think there's going to be delays in delivery of these devices.
The district's commitment to support one-to-one programs at all grade levels requires leasing or purchasing Chromebooks annually to ensure that our students have the tools they need to learn both at school and virtually. Since 2016, Ritenour School District has supported one-to-one computing, initially in RHS and subsequently in 2020 in all schools and grade levels K-12. Our commitment requires that we maintain a fleet of Chromebooks in numbers and qualities sufficient to support our roughly 6,500 students. Taking stock of our current inventory of Chromebooks, we face a looming shortage in the 21-22 school year if we do not acquire more this spring or summer. Many of our current Chromebooks are the Acer C740. They are in their 5th year of service and were leased by the district for the original 2016 one-to-one program at RHS. Google has announced an end of support for Chrome OS for this model in June of 2021. Once out of support, these devices will not reliably run some mission-critical software, such as assessments. The model C740 accounts for almost half the Chromebooks currently in service, and most of our middle school students use this model. Given the age and support status of this model, we should begin the replacement of these devices now by purchasing new Chromebooks for all of our middle school students with adequate spares for the 21-22 school year. The number of new Chromebooks needed for this is 2,000, and this purchase will allow us to replace roughly half of our C740s. Proposal cost. The proposal to purchase 2,000 new Chromebooks Acer model C733 from CDWG will cost $517,880 if we purchase before March 1. Business impact. This is a significant purchase, but funds have been made available through the COVID-related ESSER program. Recommendation. I recommend that we purchase 2,000 Chromebooks from CDWG for our middle school students at a cost of $517,880 for the 21-22 school year.
So board members, also the urgency before March 1st, that's at a discounted rate. If the order is placed after March 1, the cost per device goes up just a bit. We had a meeting this morning with our elementary principals to talk about the status of the one-to-one at the elementary level once we get through the other side of the pandemic and work to bring students back 5 days in person. Just to understand, when all children don't have to be fully virtual, is there a need for every device, even at the K-1 levels? Because there's still absolutely a place for paper and pencil work. Students need to have the OT tasks. They need to learn the handwriting and manual dexterity and those things. So the elementary principals agreed that at the elementary level, one-to-one was most critical at the 2 through 5 levels. And so we would look forward to coming back to you in the near future with a recommendation for a one-to-one purchase at the elementary at those 2 through 5 levels. The other devices that have been pushed down that are not the Acer C740, those devices would be rerouted to K-1. Because when we have an AMI day or days like Marvin has had 1.5 fully virtual days, we had a fully virtual day yesterday. We want to make sure that students do have access to devices. But we don't believe that every child, that we need to purchase a brand new device for every child. We still have some high quality devices that just happen to be a bit older, and those can be pushed to our K-1 students.
So what is the cost? What is the cost difference that you're speaking of if we go after March 1st?
About $6, $6, I believe, $6 to $8 per Chrome. It's a Google license cost. Google is going to raise the price of the license.
So the talk was that it would save us $12,000. And so what we would like to do, if the board is interested in approving this tonight, we'd like to move quickly with those numbers around the elementary so that we could come back to you potentially in a special meeting to try to get this lower price for the elementary devices that we would need to order as well. So I want to be clear, we would not be using any local funds in the purchase of these devices. This is federal money that is flowing through DESE, and we would be able to use that to purchase all of these devices.
Are the Chromebooks that got assigned to us, are they the old one?
I don't think so. I think we have new C7.
Okay, just curious.
On the flip side, we're getting all these new devices. Are we going to be able to have the capacity with our Wi-Fi? And or yeah, because usually when you have one, you got to think about the other.
Yeah, our Wi-Fi is quite robust.
So I want to also give credit to the elementary principals as well, because we do need to support students with technology devices, but also we need to support students with additional staff members. You heard from the IWC talking about the need for social emotional support. There was a conversation today with the elementary principals to support students with a level of learning loss that's happening during the pandemic, to onboard some additional staff members that would support K-1 students specifically. And if there are some gaps in their exposure and their learning, we would have some additional staff members that would be working directly with those students. And so when that conversation was happening, the elementary principal said, yes, that would be a bigger benefit to our students, some additional staff members to work directly with kids.
Madam President, I move that we approve the purchase of 2,000 Chromebooks from CDWG for our middle school students at a cost of $517,880 for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All right, I will call the vote. Mr. Garden? Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin? Yes. Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 3.03, our board meeting calendar.
So I put together the board meeting calendar for from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. There were no real changes at all in it. Everything were the first and second Thursdays. All the meetings are at 7, except in October and March they'll be 6 because those at 6 p.m. Those are our goals meetings. I do have the locations in this do say the administrative center. If we get back there, if we don't, we'll still be here. But that was so I left the location, our original location. But other than that, it's a pretty standard schedule. Does anybody have any questions?
I did have one. On April 7th is the first Thursday of the month.
You're right, it is. That should be the 14th and the 21st.
Okay.
So you're right, I did that.
April 7th is actually the first Thursday.
I was thinking it was right after the election.
I did the same thing.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it dawned on me that it was 7.
Yes, you're right.
And so I forgot to tell you that. I'm sorry.
So that's okay. So if you would approve the amended calendar, I will make the changes on that.
So the amendment to that would be that the business meeting is on the 14th and the board member orientation, if needed, is on the 21st. Anything else? I'll just look for a recommendation for the approval of the amended board meeting calendar.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden? Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones? Ms. Greco?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Moving on to 3.04, I will ask Dr. LaChance to please come forward.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm here to present items 1 through 8 for your approval, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Do we have some of our new custodians on here? How many do we have so far under the new plan?
Oh, total
Yeah.
so far? I would have to check based on what we approved last month. And I can pull that up and get that, send that to you.
I might know. I mean, I can look it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. I believe we are still looking for 2 more, but I don't want to give you the wrong number.
Are we still low on bus drivers?
We are still trying to acquire more sub-bus drivers so that we have available assistance, yes.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'm just looking for a motion.
Move we accept 1 through 8 as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Gardner? Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones? Ms. Greco?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
3.05, we have our board member comments.
I have a couple things for Chris, actually. I know that with this pandemic, we formed the parents and the staff committee meetings that meets all the time. And I've been told recently that the parent participation is down. And since both groups are essential for coming up with, direction and giving feedback, I want to know if we're doing anything to ensure that we make a good turnout for the parents. I don't know, is it a Zoom meeting or is it in person?
Yeah, so the phase 2 committee, it's a Zoom meeting. The last one was held this past Monday. The overall attendance at this last meeting was lighter than normal. Usually we have 29 to 31 participants. This last Monday, I think it was 19. We worked probably the last 2 months to try to drive parent participation. I would say there's consistent parent participation from about 5 out of the group. So I would say about 4 or 5 out of the 19 were parents. We can, in advance of the next meeting, which is scheduled for 2 weeks down the road, where we would be sharing survey data with the whole group, we can put out more RSVP, more reminders in advance to try to drive participation.
Yeah, so we have 3 or 5 that come all the time. How many of our staff is coming? Are all the rest of them staff people?
So teachers, administrators, yeah, I would say at this last meeting, it was heavily weighted towards staff.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I really think we need to make sure we're getting good input. Because we all hear it, our teachers hear it from, from parents that aren't happy with what we're doing. So I just think we need parents to be a part of that. The other thing is, what is the next plan that you have? We put you in charge. So what's your next steps? If you can share?
Yeah, so right now, based on the data is more positive than what it's been. We're in phase 1 at the school for early childhood with a reduced class size. We're at phase 2 at the rest of the district from K to 12. We're starting conversations around some additional movement at the high school, but those plans are being driven here by the high school. At this point, we don't have a next step, an additional next plan to move to phase 1 at other levels. And my hesitancy in doing that has been the moment that we go to phase 1, which is 5 days of in-person for all children, the social distancing strategies in classrooms and elsewhere in the building that we just couldn't follow. So those strategies, we have them in place. We're happy to say that right now, the number of positive students, the number of positive staff is relatively low. The number of quarantine students and quarantine staff across the district is relatively low, although we do have students and staff that are in quarantine. So at this point, I don't have a date set for the next move, the transition back to phase 1. There were a couple of things that I was thinking about. Social distancing strategies in phase 1, just you can't have them in place. There are a number of school districts that, especially outside of St. Louis County, a lot of school districts in St. Charles County and Jefferson County that are in full phase 1, 5 days a week. There's one district that I'm aware of in St. Louis County, Hancock Place School District, is back 5 days a week in person. There was an announcement recently that Pattonville is looking to go back towards 5 days in person at the K to 8 levels. A lot of the other districts have some combination of 4 days a week or something like that. So at this point, board members, I don't have a next date to go back to phase 1, but I'm happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because even if we went back to phase 1, wouldn't the people who signed up virtually still be virtual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'd just be bringing back, we'd be combining the Monday, Tuesday together.
Well, so a full phase 1 would be 5 days a week for kids, and so we would not have the cohorts anymore. So that cohort structure would be done away with, but the students who are fully virtual would stay fully virtual.
Maybe we need a phase 2.5 where we do Monday through Thursday and still be virtual on Friday. I don't know, you know.
Yeah. But board members, I'm happy to share the data with you, the current data, and what that looks like in terms of class sizes and so on.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other board member comments? Anything they'd like to share?
I did want to.
Share my granddaughter that is plan up there at Road Child. She had a question. She could go 5 days. She gets up there and ready to go to school. Gets ready. 5 ready to go. Oh yeah, she loves making her mom. She is just excited about it. So I don't know about the rest of the kids, but got one hand cousin for that.
That's good. That's good.
Ms. Lover Jones?
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Brad was saying earlier about the NSBA and the webinars that they're having. This week I attended the equity symposium, and it was actually very good. It's, you know, common things that we hear, but as a board member, some of the things that stood out to me in the symposium that they talked about was that so often we create policies that do not align with the structures or with the students that we are trying to reach. So when we think about that as a board and being the governing body, are we creating policies that do not align with the students that we are trying to reach? And there are 4 things that policies should really be doing. They should be exacerbating, perpetuating, mitigating, eliminating inequities. So when we think about policies that come before us, I know we're trying to be more diligent and making sure that our policies are relevant, but how are we doing that? Are we aligning that to make sure that our policies are actually eliminating inequities?
So I'm not for sure if that webinar is still available, but if you get a chance, there's a lot of great information that they share in there, and just like some aha things like, as a board member, how am I practicing and implementing equity in my role? So just wanted to share that.
Lisa, could you share that name of which?
Oh, exacerbating, perpetuating, mitigating, and eliminating inequities. And that's a part of NSBA's equity statement. Because their whole theme this year for the equity group is DIRE, which stands for Dismantling Institutional, what is it? Let me get it right. Dismantling institutionalized racism in education. That's their theme this year.
We've received, just to reinforce that, we've received, and I hope everybody has, by the way, emails on a weekly basis on topics like that. That was one thing that did stick out that we encourage everyone to look at. I haven't been able to sign up for it yet, but it's on my radar. It's something I've seen probably every week for the last few weeks. You know, they put on first class stuff, and it's great to hear someone's taking advantage of that. Jump on. It's a lot of it's free because we pay for it. But remember, educational.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Anything else? At this time, we'll move on to 3.06, which we've added on with Ms. Julie Hahn.
I'm just going to summarize, I guess, is that what you would like to hear with the report? Really with the counseling report, I also included social work information. Want to recognize our team this year for their wellness work, their grief work. I think you're aware that we have a crisis recovery team, and unfortunately they had to go into action a couple of times this year. The fact that they have been doing virtual counseling and our constant commitment with them to our students, reaching out, trying to find missing students, making sure our students are fed, clothed, and coming to school. We have an amazing team of counselors, social workers, and social emotional supports. Some of the big concerns that we are thinking about for next year and even for the rest of the school year. We have a lot of kiddos who, particularly at the kindergarten level, and who have not been in school. So there's over 100 students that we lost this year in kindergarten. What is it going to be like when they come back to school next year? So thinking about the school readiness skills for our younger first graders too, some of those challenges there. The fact that many of our students who have mental health concerns have not been able to get some of the supports that they need during the pandemic. We've lost a lot of students who have chosen work over coming to school on a regular basis. And that's going to be part of our work. How do we get the students back who are disconnected? Social skills. Our students have been sitting in front of computers for an extended period of time. They haven't been interacting like they're used to doing. Making sure our kids are ready to come back and learn some of those social skills and be able to be kids. And really thinking about the amount of trauma that we've already seen this year with the pandemic. I can tell you right now, we've had 120 this past semester hotline calls, and some of them are pretty significant. So that tells me we have a lot of students that are in crisis, that are in need. We've had an increase in our number of kids who've been placed in foster care and in emergency placements. And our number of homeless students and youth has gone up more than it has ever gone up in a semester. So thinking about, our needs and the needs that the counselors have, there is a need for more support for social emotional counseling, social work next school year. When the IWC was up here, they talked about the fact that they need counseling and social work support. Well, we lost our only Spanish-speaking counselor this year. She resigned, and so they have not had the support that they need. We put someone in there, but she does not speak Spanish, but she's doing a phenomenal job. So I want us to really think about as a district what we could do to support all age groups, because I have a feeling that the social emotional needs and mental health needs are going to be tremendous coming back to school. So my recommendation was, I always go under, but Dwight likes to think I go over. Ideally, if we could get 7 to 8 people, which would be counselors, social workers, some of them bilingual, to support in all areas, it would really help our students, also our staff, and our parents as well. So that was my recommendation, and thinking about how we can use different grants or funds would be wonderful. But I think long-term, we really need to think about how do we build up that team.
Well, I just want you to know, I wanted this move because when I read through it, I don't think this is a consent agenda item. I think this is something that we need to talk about as a board, that these are very important things that we need to keep our eyes on and look at how we can work this into the budget because of all the things you just said. And it is a, strange time for all of us, and more support is needed. So that's why I asked that we put it open.
And I appreciate you doing that.
Very good report.
Thank you.
And Julie, I also want to make sure that we also understand it's important that it's not just now, it's not just next semester. It's going to be something that we're going to go through over the next couple of years from all the trauma that's happening.
We hope in a couple of years.
As they talked about the need for the counselors, they also talked about need for another teacher. Where are we at with getting the teacher? Where are we at with looking forward? And even I know about dealing with budgets at school. I put it in a long-term budget thing to replace equipment at work. I know we couldn't do it all at once, but if we could have a plan how we can move forward, so we can see that time where we have 6 to 8 people that we might need. How do we work that into our budget?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the questions and also appreciate the urgency with this new ESSER money that we found out about it last Thursday. And so, the idea, I think everybody gets the sense of urgency. We just have to work like in a purposeful way too. Nobody's trying to drag feet. Ben Norrell mentioned this, the teacher that we're down at the IWC, and I'll say that Ms. Hahn is always all over the IWC, advocating for the program, advocating for the staff. So I know that staff requisitions and staff recommendations are a part of this ESSER funds, and having to spend the money by the end of 2023 allows us 2 years potentially of additional staffing to meet social, emotional, as well as academic gaps. So it seems like it would fit perfectly together.
I have to agree, this is something that has to be on our radar, just as much as the academics.
Well, this affects the academic stuff.
So, yeah, I was kind of surprised how many opportunities there were in this.
One of the things that really stood out for me was the responsive services, which is crisis mode. And we think about when you're constantly operating in crisis mode, survival mode, what does that do to your mentality? What does that do to the environment and the mindset expectation? So even when we're doing this work and we hire people, we're going to have to do some retraining so people get out of functioning in crisis mode, because that's where our strength lies. But there's so many more opportunities in the other areas. We're great at responding.
Yeah.
Which is good, that's a great thing, so I appreciate you highlighting that and pulling that out, but we also have to think about what that does for individuals and the impact that that's having right now on our staff and students and families.
I think that's huge, Lisa. And, the self-care piece is very, very important for our staff and students, but also for our counseling and social work team. They're always taking care of other people. And, at some point we have to make sure that we're taking care of them as well. Right. So thank you for bringing it along.
Any other questions in regards to the report or anything? I think the task that's coming out of this is let us know and let's move on it purposeful.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you do
Thank you, Julie.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Ms. Clover reminded me, we do have to have that one approved because it was moved out of the consent agenda item. So I will look for an approval of the program evaluation of the counseling program.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Definitely.
And I will vote yes. Thank you for the reminder. So the consent agenda will be 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay, so now I'm looking for an approval of the consent agenda items from 4.01 through 4.07.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Was that Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Moving on to 5.01, looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene in closed session for state statute 610021 for the purpose of a discussion of real estate and personnel agenda items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden? Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. We are now in closed session.